night. In their stories, the power is seen. Dreamers stand tall, defying limits between. The leadership shines, a legacy song. Lessons of courage, forward thinkers belong. Forward thinkers shaping our time, innovation symphony in its prime. We honor those who dare to dream big, challenge norms with a mighty dig. Innovation's flame shining bright, guiding generations day and night. Bridges they build, their visions are filled.
It's okay.
Their leaders they inspire, their impact soars high.
Outstanding.
Forward thinkers shaping our time, innovation symphony in its prime. We honor those who dare to dream big, challenge norms with a mighty dig. Innovation's flame shining bright, guiding generations day and night. Forward thinkers, leaders of grace, living a mark in this boundless space. In a special place where knowledge reigns,
Do you need a water?
educational leadership guide and lanes. We will celebrate the shared quest. Education and cooperation at their best. Older and young, unite with hands held high, supporting growth that touches the sky. Education is a compass that's strong, guiding the way for minds for so long. In the heart of education's domain, together we foster, grow, and gain. From classrooms to corridors, it's clear. Corporate hands extend year after year, empowering minds to reach new heights. All of us learning where wisdom ignites. Talent and skill echo corporate's call, pointing to education for one and all. Education is a compass that's strong, guiding the way for minds for so long. In the heart of education's domain, together we foster, grow, and gain. Boardrooms and classrooms are entwined, a promise to nurture, legacy defined, supporting young minds to spread their wings, because in learning we can do many things, yeah. Education.
Yeah, so unless they give you something by name, I might just say any of the panelists. If I hear something that I'm like, oh, that sounds like so and so, then I might call your name. But I'll look over. You don't feel that. Hopefully everyone's good with it. Is open discussion, so that's what we said we wanted to give to them. So authentic discussion. Yeah, for sure. You can just signal like, I'll take that, and we go for it. We are on a speed date, the ultimate speed date. We're gonna learn so much. Oh, I'm like,
Heroes in classrooms guiding through endless possibilities for me and you. Student leaders who inspire and give back will continue to be on the right track. Student leaders, a resounding praise for lighting the path in diverse ways. Leaders of now and leaders to be. Our country thanks you, it's plain to see. Not just teachers, but mentors of soul. Nurturing minds to reach all their goals. A path illuminated, the path shows the next generation to bravely grow. Student leaders, a resounding praise for lighting the path in diverse ways. Leaders of now and leaders to be. Our country thanks you, it's plain to see.
good morning. Can you all hear me? Good morning. Outstanding. I should tell you, fair warning, I grew up in a Baptist church, and so the call and response is part of my culture. So I'm like, good morning. Wonderful. Thank you all for your attention this morning. I am so excited to be your moderator. My name is Dr. Whitney Gaskins, and I'll introduce myself more to you during this panel, but I'm excited because we have an amazing panel organized for you all today. Just a few housekeeping things that I want to make sure we're aware of. You guys are in Women in Leadership panel. So we're talking about enhancing confidence, communication, and negotiation skills. And this is in room 250. So if you were looking for somewhere else, our feelings will not be hurt if you needed to get up and exit the room. But that is what you're in for today. Also, we have designed this panel to be open discussion. So I already gave you a fair warning. I'm a call and response. So after we talk to you for a little bit, we are expecting questions, dialogue, discussion, and that was purposely designed for your educational benefit and also to make sure you leave with something that you wanted out of the workshop. So I also want to encourage those in the back, if you want to please come to the front. I promise this will be a great experience for you. If you haven't had your badge scanned, you can have your badge scanned at the back of the room. Please do so either now or even as you exit the workshop. I have a whole list of announcements that I have to give, so if you see me looking, I just don't want to miss anything. Make sure that you register online at Morgan State University table if you're trying to get your credits, your continuing education credits. And there are surveys in the app, so if you have yet to download the app, please do so. You can actually see our more extensive bios in that app, and it also will help you with all the other conference logistics. In there, you will find a survey that we really hope that you fill out. It will help us in the future for a wonderful conference, and it'll help us as presenters and panelists to make sure that we're doing a great job as we're giving you guys information. As I said, I was going to introduce everybody to you in a little bit more detail. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Are you guys ready? Okay. So I told you we have a wonderful panel. I'm actually the moderator, Dr. Whitney Gaskins. I work at the University of Cincinnati. I am the founder of the Gaskins Foundation. I'm excited to be here. I get go to the gala tonight. I am one of the award recipients, and so you'll get to see me up there. Thank you. I'm not alone. There are fellow awardees on the panel today. Again, you can read more about my bio in the app, so please feel free to take a look. But as we were talking about on our panel today, there are things that I wanted to just share with you. I am not a panelist, so I'm going to get my 10 seconds now. But authenticity is a major key to success, and so when we're talking about things, just keep that in the back of your mind, and I am happy to share more. I can tell you when I stopped trying to conform and be like everyone else, that is when the success started to really come and flow. So authenticity is a major key. And then just so you all know, there is no mentorship guru. So when you're in the room and you're like, well, I have a mentor, and you feel like that you've done what you were supposed to, I tell you, I have a mentor for everything. I have one for spirituality. I have one for adulting, because those healthcare forms are still hard to understand. I have one for family planning. There's not one single person that can just give you all the advice that you need in the world. So one mentor is great, but think about what you can do when you have 5, okay? So that's what I would share with you all today as my tidbits of advice. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Alina Brown, and she's going to share some information about herself and her advice to you all.
Hi, good morning, everyone. How are you? Wonderful. It's Saturday. Thank you for being here with us. Elena Brown, I am an IT director for PepsiCo. I've been with PepsiCo for going on 19 years, and that's a long time, and I get a lot of looks from people like, 19 years? You've been with the same organization that long? I've had the opportunity to change roles. Give or take every 3-4 years. And those experiences have been absolutely incredible. So my current role, I lead our global sourcing and procurement area. And what that entails is that I work with my business stakeholders to identify future solutions that support sourcing and procurement and build out roadmaps. So these are scalable solutions that we can hopefully implement across the globe. And then I also work independently with sectors on solutions that they're thinking through. So I'm also an active member of our Women of Color chapter in New York. I'm based out of our worldwide headquarters in Purchase. Background, some additional background, I spent time with SAP, within PepsiCo, working on SAP, some project management. What else? Ironically, my background is not IT. So I've spent 17 years in this field, this function. I moved to PepsiCo from Gap. I started in finance in global procurement, and prior to PepsiCo, I was with Gap. My first job was managing a shipping dock at a Baltimore distribution center. So I have a passion for understanding supply chain and operations. I love understanding the nuts and bolts and how your business and what drives your business. I have 3 children. I'm married. I live in Beacon, New York. And the 3 items that I have listed there, I'm just going to go really quickly. So kind of things that I always think through. Take the time to foster those relationships. Your network, and this is something that I've always been very fortunate to have, is invaluable. Those people that are bringing you along, who are your allies and your advocates, talking about you while you're not in the room, they're your greatest supporters. And it's 2 ways. You have to foster those relationships. You have to give love into those relationships and make them feel like they're heard, and vice versa. Completely agree with Whitney with kind of having your own personal board directors. Mentors should be diverse. You don't want your best friend, you can use your best friend, but you need somebody they're going to offer, some critical, constructive criticism, and tell you like it is. Mm-hmm. That's the only way that you're going to grow. Take action, even when it's scary. Take those risks. I think that's something that holds us back. We may think that we might not know 100% of the solution. We are only about 50-60% of the way there, but you're going to learn it. So take that risk. And then the last one I have is, don't be afraid to network, which kind of ties in with my first. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Now you heard a lot. So hopefully you're taking notes. There is a wealth of information that you can learn. So again, we will have time for questions for the audience, but I just want to make sure you get to see who you get to learn from today. Next is Maria Thorpe.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for being here today. A little bit about me. Little girl, grew up in Philadelphia, in the city. Nobody was thinking much about anything. I was there. But I had a really good propensity for math and science. And so my teacher saw that in me, and so it propelled me to kind of work in that space. At that time, I had no idea what engineering was, but they shared with me what that was. In fact, they put me in a program. It was called PRIME, Philadelphia Regional Introduction for Minorities to Engineering. And so that allowed me to engage in the university space at an early age, because the program allowed you to go to the different universities in Philly. And Philly has a lot of great universities, University of Pennsylvania, Drexel University, Temple University, Villanova Universities. These were all the universities I got a chance to experience what an engineer could do. And I selected one of those schools at the end, Drexel University, is where I got my BS in electrical engineering from. But that was the beginning, and it was that, the beginning. It opened so many doors for me as a young African-American female in the inner city. And so I went on to college. I went on to get a couple other degrees. And I was fortunate because, you know, my family had no money to send me to college. So how was I going to go to college? I was fortunate to get a scholarship, not only from the university, but the Navy. The Department of the Navy saw something in me. They had a program they were looking for women in engineering. And my neighbor, that's why you have to speak into existence what it is you want. She heard that I was in engineering. She shared that with the family. I went to the interview. I was successful, and I got a full scholarship, books, tutors, tuition, and a job.
Wow.
At the end of graduation. So, guess what? Go forward. I do the exact same thing for others. I've created a program through my organization to do just that. Offer opportunities for young folks to come into our space, have an internship, and when they graduate, if they so choose, which they often do, can come work for us in the Department of the Navy. So that's just a little bit about me and how I got here. But what I want to say, you know, we're here today because I think each of us has a story about what it took for us to get here. And it's sad to say that in this day and age, we're still probably doing the first. I'm the first African-American female to lead an engineering department in my organization. Think about that. So when you say you're the only one in the room and you have to be in the room, because if you're not in the room, how can you make change? How can you contribute globally to what your organization is doing? All of our companies up here are global. So you want to be in the space. So it can be a little intimidating. That's why we want to talk about your confidence, your negotiation skills, and all of these different things that you're here to learn. We all have a different perspective on that. So I'll stop there. Oh, I'm supposed to tell you my couple of things?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay. Oh, yes. We all are going to talk about be a mentor, get a mentor. The first thing I do for any employee that comes into my space is, guess what? They get a buddy mentor. Someone who's going to help them through the process. Now, every organization has a process that you do for onboarding a new employee, and that can be intimidating and scary. So I set a program up so you can get a buddy, someone who can take you into the community, show you where they hang out, you know, what's happening in the space at the office, just to get you started before you get your technical mentor and your other mentor, because as was said, you need more than one mentor to be in this space. And next, I want to talk about what? Stay positive in the face of diversity. I'm sure if each of us told you a little story, it's not easy to get where you're trying to go and where we are. So you have to stay positive, because some days, woo, you just got to smile and keep yourself straight. Because some days, you're going to feel it, and you've got to be able to bring yourself back. And I'll just leave you with this little tidbit. We're all growing each and every day. I'm in a course right now. We talk about emotional intelligence, EQ, we talk about IQ. Well, it's a new thing out. It's called PQ, positive intelligence, and how it can help you in the workspace. And what we as technical people, people in the space, women, what we need to do to keep our positiveness about us. Now, I can share a little bit about that later, but it's something new. I think it's a tool you should put in your toolkit, how to stay positive. Thank you.
Thank you. That was a lot of great advice already. I had never heard of PQ, so I'm taking that back with me. So thank you for that tidbit of information. We're going to move on. Dr. Brooke.
Hi, everybody. Those are some tough bios to follow up here, so I'm gonna try to anchor this home. My name is Brooke Hirsch. I work for Actilent Scientific Services. I've been with the organization about 4.5 years. My journey is a long one, I guess, in my 25 almost years of experience that I have now. So I started out really wanting to be a doctor. I was fortunate enough to be able to shadow a couple doctors, see a couple surgeries when I was young and in high school. And then I decided, wow, that's really boring. They're just doing the same thing over and over and over again. How can I still be in the medical field, but have something that's constantly changing and interesting me? So I decided to go into research. So it's why I got my bachelor's degree in microbiology, went on to get my PhD in molecular biology, and have continued to kind of work in organizations where I can grow, problem solve. I love those challenges, talk about science with people who are interested in talking about science. I'm really passionate about STEM. I'm passionate about, getting the next generation and the younger generation into STEM fields. I volunteer at schools across my state to go in and present things. I even have like a microscope and some slides I'll go show kids just to kind of get them interested in things. And I'm also a mentor to other mostly women in our organization in the STEM field, where I take them under my wing and really kind of talk about whatever challenges they're facing, and help them learn new techniques, help them learn new scientific areas that maybe they haven't learned before. So I really love that about what we do. And in my current role, I work with clients to help solve some of their challenges as well. So every day, I get to hear about some of the challenges our clients are facing and how we can help put together a team of people that solve them. So to me, it's great. I love interacting with people. I feel like I'm in several different leadership roles, and I think that's what I'm excited to talk about today, is that I've been a vice president in an organization. I've been an employee in an organization, and there's leadership all around all of those different roles, even if you don't have the title. So you need to, think about that and what that looks like for you, and how you can continue to foster your leadership style, your negotiation style to really get to, complete your goals. So a couple of my pieces of advice. If you don't ask, then the answer's already no. This is one I tell my young daughters all the time, because I think people are afraid to hear no. But guess what? If you hear no, you still live. It's okay. Mm-hmm. So be comfortable hearing no, because if you don't ask, the answer is already no. So give yourself a shot at least. Even if it's asking for that promotion or asking for a raise or just asking for more responsibility on your team, don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to hear no. You gotta at least go for it, right? And my second one, be your own best advocate. So kind of goes along with the first one. You're the only one looking out for you. In your life sometimes, in your healthcare situations. How many of you gone to a dentist and been like, oh, that doesn't seem right? Well, go get another dentist. Like, you are your own best advocate. You know yourself to your core better than anyone else. So be your best advocate and really put yourself out there. It's scary. I get it. It's tough sometimes. But let's be brave. Let's take those chances. And I think the other thing along that is let's support each other while we're doing it, especially as women in the room. I feel like very passionate about the fact that we need to stop using some of the words that are associated with women in leadership, and that starts with all of the other women in the room. Mm-hmm. So let's advocate for ourselves, let's advocate for our friends, and let's support each other. So glad to be here today. Thank you very much for having me.
Yes.
Excited to chat.
I love that. Thank you.
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
just want to share this. You will hear no. And so because you hear no so much, I've come up with a new acronym for no. Next opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you guys know our workshop. We talk about confidence. We're talking about negotiation skills. So I'm going to pivot us to confidence. And I want to ask our panelists, each of them have an opportunity to answer this question. But what do you do to make sure you have the confidence to do the job?
I can start, I guess. And maybe there's a little bit of ego behind it, right? But I know what I know. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. You can't come in and tell me I don't know what I know, because I've lived that. That's my experience. It's my path. That's my journey. And that helps me build confidence. And I'm really not afraid of negative feedback. I'm not afraid of no, because I feel like you grow in those situations. But you have to be confident enough to accept that feedback for what it is. Maybe you get some information back and it hurts, right? I mean, think about it. It may not be totally true. Process it, understand what it means for you, and have the confidence to really look at yourself and understand if that's what you need to do moving forward, right? So I think confidence is just, sometimes it's maybe just knowing who you are as yourself and maybe just kind of blocking out the rest of the world if you have some of that negativity coming back your way. I live very freely in that way, and it makes me very happy, honestly, because I know there's people that probably don't like me. There's people that might not agree with my opinions. There's maybe people that don't agree with my leadership style. But I'm trying my best every day. I'm growing, and I have confidence in the fact that I'm doing my best and have my interests and my colleagues and coworkers and my family's best interests at heart with what I'm doing every day. So that really helps build your confidence, and you got to just own it and live in it.
Thank you.
I think that's great. To add on to that, to piggyback, I think everybody has experienced imposter syndrome, right? You're in a new role, you may not know everything, you're learning some stuff from scratch, but in your mind, and you have to remember that you were placed in that role because your leadership knew that you could do it, right? So you have people who are cheering you on, and you're going to have, someone once told me that, and now whenever I walk into a room, like today, it's funny that we're talking about confidence, right? Nervous, super, super nervous, just throwing that out there. And I think that's good to have the jitters, right? But I'm super excited to speak to everyone. But I think that you have to have that kind of balance between the two.
Before we move on, does everyone know what imposter syndrome is? Okay, saw one head that said no. Does anyone want to define imposter syndrome for our audience?
I feel like you would have a...
I'm an imposter every day.
Oh my gosh.
You know, that is such an overused term.
It is.
And I know we throw it out there. But, you know, I don't really have the definition because I don't really subscribe to it. So imposter syndrome to me, you know, I get up in the morning and I might have a big job to do and I'm already doubting myself. Hence why I'm in PQ. Because, you know, we can do it. But we convince ourselves and then we let other people, you know, kind of feed off of that. But if you come in there with your positivity, hence positivity, and understanding of your strengths and your abilities, and you celebrate them daily, that'll help to push out that imposter syndrome. I don't think any of us should have it, but we should acknowledge that others may think that we have it. And it's up to us as individuals and as women collectively to try to support one another, to build up one another, to stop that talking, the self-talk that convinces you that you might be an imposter. You are here for a reason. You did the hard work, you're in the space for a reason, and just go with that.
Thank you. There it is. I will tell you, if you're looking for a way, you're like, okay, that's great, right? Like, but I still feel it.
Yeah.
Here's one thing that can work, because I need you guys to get out of the space of being humble, because some of our colleagues don't have this issue, okay? Just saying. It is called a brag sheet, and it's a very simple exercise.
Yeah.
You literally write down everything that you've accomplished, because you guys are boss babes. Right? Like I had to censor myself. Lou, get it together. Yeah. Okay. So you got to write out the things that you've done. And then you're in that moment of, oh my gosh, I'm unsure of myself, right? That self-assuredness. You know what you know. But there are moments that you're going to be like, what am I doing? Pull out the brag sheet.
Yes.
And remember who you are.
Yes.
Because you didn't get there by accident. And nobody made a mistake. And you're not an imposter because you got a whole list of all the things that you've been able to do. I do it often. I literally carry it with me. It's in the room. I literally have it because there's moments that I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Oh, I forgot myself. I'm capable, right? So just a real live tip for something that if you're just in that moment, it really does help. Any questions from the audience? Discussion about confidence.
I had a couple things.
Go for it.
Because we want to leave you with some things. One of the things, and she talked about it, you have to acknowledge your strength. You know, Clifton has a strength finder. Go take it. It's a tool for you. Find out what your strengths are and build upon it. She mentioned, write down your accomplishments regularly. because you forget all the great things you did. Sometimes you're going for a job, you don't remember what you did yesterday, more or less 4 or 5 years ago. Write it down. After you've done it, write it down. You don't have to brag about it, but the brag thing is good.
No, you need to.
You just want to remember. Yeah, I do agree. Nobody will tell your story like you. The other thing is, take on challenging assignments. Because it will bring those strengths right out to you. You will do things you never thought you could do. But you have to put yourself in a place where you're stepping out of your comfort zone. Take that assignment. Be the one that raises your hand. Because you know how we do. We sit back in the back of the room, we put that head down. We looking to see who's going to raise their hand first. Be the one. Raise your hand. And lastly, keep learning. Learn from your failures. We all will have them. I tell my folks, fail fast and keep it moving. Learn from it and go back and see what you need to do. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. I'm opening it one more time before I transition to our next question. Yes. Yes. Oh, can you come to the mic? Do you mind coming to the microphone? We do have an audience who is virtual with us today, and so we're just trying to make sure that they can hear the questions and the dialogue. So when you have a question or a comment, we do ask you to come to the microphone.
Hi there, good morning. My name is Patrice Hopkins. I'm representing the Naval Air Systems Command, and so I work with Marine
Hi,
Corps.
Patrice.
Thank you. We talk about confidence and talk about fail fast. That struck a chord with me because as I was sitting here thinking, wow, these are amazing ladies in front of me. I wonder how did they get through those failures. Ironically, this is the first time in Michigan since 2006. I marked that date because hopefully I don't get too emotional. Not on camera, I hope.
We're here to support
So
you.
I initially started with the federal government way back in 2001. Straight out of college, started in contracts, internship, finished the internship, and actually left the government to go to law school at Thomas Cooley here. Unfortunately, I didn't do well. And I was academically dismissed. It's my first time saying it in public, actually. To the point I even held it secret from my family. They wondered, why are you back? And so, long story short, felt like a failure. I was going to be the first lawyer of the family. Everyone was so proud. Ever since that moment, just to fast forward, because I did go into industry, I said, you know what, let me get out of here. I did 8 months of it, and I fought hard to stay in, but it just didn't work out. And so I went on, got into industry, worked for CACI, worked in the Pentagon, worked in some other places, eventually returned back to PATS. And long story short, I keep going back to that 2006 failure, and I found that I have held on it. I didn't fail fast. I held on it and actually thought, let me see what Thomas Cooley looks like, even coming here. Like, I wonder, let me just feel how that felt. When I first felt I had accomplished, I had made it. My family was so proud when they moved me out here. And my mom, she came, she supported me, and came this weekend. She said, don't do it. Don't drive out there. What is it going to gain you? And so my question to you is, because I feel like from that point on, I swear, I have not been, even though I'm blessed, haven't been an awardee this weekend, I can't help to feel like a piece of me is still stuck back in 2006, and I have not been happy like 100% ever since that point. I keep going back to there, but I was supposed to be there. I was supposed to be there. And so my question is, how do you deal, how have you recovered? What has been the best tips, or how have you recovered when you have failed? You thought it was someplace you always wanted to be all your life. How have you recovered for that? What was the best method? If you pretend for a moment, if you were in my
I don't have to
situation where I've
pretend.
hung on for failure for that long, I didn't even realize it was like 2006. And that's a long story, but I'm actually kind of proud of myself to actually
Yes. Yes. I am identifying with your story, and I'm sure that the panelists have some advice that they would like to share with you, but I want to share with you, you're not alone. I have failed. I just had this conversation at the hairdresser. You know how we talk at the hairdresser. But somebody was like, man, how do you do all the things that you do, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I don't. I fail all the time. So if you're following me on social media, you're getting a highlight reel. I'm about to start doing the failure reel because I fail all the time. I am a doctor, but I wanted to be a medical doctor. I have my PhD. I don't have my MD. There's a whole story behind that, right? I get what you're talking about, like failing and letting go. But I'm going to tell you this. This is probably a strange example. You guys get to see how my mind works. But do you ever see when they work with soldiers who may have a hidden limb syndrome? So they have lost a limb, an arm or a leg, and they put a mirror up, and they can see what the limb that they still have, and it looks like it's the other. And the reason why they're in pain is because they're clenching without knowing that they're clenching, then pain, so in your leg and in your arm. In that mirror, they can see that what they have, right? And they just say, let go. So when you let go of this one, it lets go, and then the pain goes away. Let go.
Yes.
You're holding on to something that happened that I'm going to tell you the honest to God truth. God don't make no mistakes.
Right. That's right.
It was a path that you desired that he didn't want you on.
That's right.
You got to let it go. Look in the mirror, let go, and let those years pass, because you've done great things since then.
Absolutely.
You're not defined by that one blip in time. You are not the sum of all the bad things.
Yeah.
That's right.
You're amazing.
Yes.
Own that, because you said yourself, you're blessed. You just got to let it go.
Absolutely.
And it's okay. Everybody in here has experienced a failure.
Yes.
And if someone tells you that they haven't, they're lying.
Yes.
Okay? Flat out.
That's right.
Don't let it define you. And you're letting it define you. And I'm going to tell you this too. Nobody actually cares.
No.
We don't care that you didn't make it in law school. Like, girl, who cares? We care about you now.
Right. Right.
We're here with you now. And even then, we'd be like, okay, there's other things to do in life. It's okay.
Yes.
It's okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to pass it on. Sorry. Panelists.
Agree completely with
Yeah.
what you just said. You have to let it go. And I think that everybody fails. Everybody. You've had failures, you've had successes. All of those become you, right? And they're going to lend perspective on how you're going to approach the next situation. All of those experiences are going to have some type of impact on how you move forward. So,
Thank you.
I would say today is your day one.
Yes.
You've told it to us. You spoke it into the universe. Now, you see that trash can back there? That's where it is. It's done. It's gone. I tell you, that's why you see so many people balled up in the corner. You have to let this mess go. And I call it mess. It is. We make messes every day. We spill our juice. We clean it up. We throw it away. We don't think about it anymore. When you have those messes in your career, clean it up. Do what you got to do for yourself. If you need to go in the bathroom or cry, get under the pillow, whatever it is you got to do, get it out, release it, throw it out, and come back and do it again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your bravery, because I didn't read this off the slide, but I think this is a perfect time to tell you this is an open space.
Yes.
We are expecting open and honest and freedom in this space. This is a liberated space, right? So it's a judgment-free zone. And we are trying to help everyone with whatever the question may be, navigating your journey. And so just thank you for being brave and sharing that with all of us today.
Thank you so much.
Good morning.
Good
Thank
morning.
you all for sharing your experiences. It's really my first time here at this conference. Sorry, my name is Alyssa, and I'm with Abbott Labs. I think a theme throughout a lot of the conferences and the seminars is essentially this. So I appreciate the sort of baseline that we can build our careers and our journeys on. Mine is not a question, it's more an appreciation of the imposter syndrome conversation in that, you know, I'm in design and construction. This is what I do for my organization. And I'm usually the only female in the room or with all the contractors, you know, so it's inherent kind of in our thinking. And I think that there is a way that we need to stop saying it's imposter syndrome and the idea that we're writing down our accomplishments. They're not arrogance, it's accomplishments and
Yes.
acknowledgement. And there are failures, and I would just want to say that in my conversations with my mentor, I say, well, I'm just failing forward. At least I'm moving forward and learning from those things. But I just wanted to thank you all for that. So.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Indu. I'm a systems engineer also with Abbott. One question that I had on confidence that you brought up, especially because I have daughters too, so it's a whole new lens seeing them grow, is do you think some people, like confidence just comes more naturally to them, or do you think it's actually a skill that can be coached? Or, you know, do some people have to work a little bit harder to overcome some of the nervousness or the inner dialogue around imposter syndrome? And what would be your advice for that?
Great question.
Yes. I think there's part of, I think, well, first of all, I think anything can be learned, right? So if you're trying to build confidence, if you're trying, anything that you're trying to accomplish, you need to learn and grow, right? I do think there is some confidence that kind of just comes naturally. You know, environment that you were brought up in or things that you've been through can tend to foster that naturally. I think as women, we have a harder time being confident or showing that we're confident, just because we get called bossy or we get, you know, oh, you know, the eye rolls or whatever. And so I think that there's a balance, and that's a little bit learned, right? So you want to be confident, but not, you know, you have that line. If you don't feel confident, if you do feel nervous, get out of your comfort zone. Come speak on a panel. Come like shake your nerves out, right? I'm not nervous. Like, I can do this all day, but that's me. Whereas Elena, you know, she's got to work through some things, but she's growing and she's learning. So set yourself a goal. If you feel unconfident in certain situations, that's where you can maybe role play with a mentor, with a colleague, with a friend, right? Hey, I have a big interview coming up, or I'm going to speak on a panel. I'm nervous about it, or whatever it might be. I have a big meeting I need to present in. Prepare, you know, learn, grow, never stop learning, never stop growing. And if you want to be more confident, then go be more confident. Set yourself some goals, and they don't have to be big, huge things. Little mini tasks that you're working on a day, a minute at a time to kind of help you grow there. So some of it's inherent, sure, right? But I think anything can be learned. So just keep pushing at it.
Agree. I have 2 girls and a little boy. My girls, I think that by doing events like this, right, and showing that you're willing to put yourself out there and ask the questions and take on the challenges, you know, you're here. Your girls will see that. And they will embody it, and you will support it. And I think that's, you know, you're going to be their biggest cheerleader, so they have that.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think one thing that I've learned, at least with my daughters, is normalizing that nervousness. Like you said, it doesn't mean you're an imposter, you're just nervous. And you're nervous because you care, and that's okay, right? Like, it's okay to, like, feel it rather than being like, oh, that person's doing, I don't know, the monkey bar is so much easier than you are, and they're just awesome at it. It's like, no, they were probably nervous when they didn't know how to do it, right? And it's okay. It's okay to feel that, you know, tightening of the chest or whatever that is, and that's part of the process. Because there is this feeling of like, oh, this person was just born with it. You know
And
what I
there might
mean?
be, right? Like, 2 things can be true at one time. Some people might be born with like a
Yeah.
natural self-assuredness, and that's great. There's something else that they don't have that they're going to be working on and practicing too, right? Like, so 2 things can be true.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys.
Did you want to address that?
No, just that, you know, God gave us all talents,
Yes.
gifts. Use what you have, leverage it, and use your network to help you. Step into the space. If you want to be better at something, a better speaker, go take a speaking course and speak. A better writer, go take a writing course and write. I mean, you can't get better if you're not doing something to better yourself. So as Nike says, what? Just do it.
Oh, come on up.
Can I add one other thing before you? The one other thing that I talk to my girls about is bias, right? And what you had stated about, women, if you're assertive, right, it may be seen as, oh, she's being aggressive. No, that's your bias. And I think that that's something that we still need to overcome. Are we more soft-spoken? What do we bring to the table? And you have to take all of that into consideration as well.
You reminded me of something too. So I want us just to put a plug in too that we live in a world that rewards extrovert behavior, outgoing behavior. And so if you're a person is like, I struggle because I'm introverted and I might not present as outgoing, know that I see you and that there are tools to help you get through, because there's nothing wrong with being introverted. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I'm just outgoing, right? Like, so introverted and shy are two different things. And so I think that I do know that we live in an extroverted culture and society, and so there are things that you can do to enhance that, because it's not a confidence thing. So sometimes people who are introverted think it's a confidence. It's because you live in an extroverted, rewarded world. And so just remember that if that's you, that you probably aren't lacking in confidence. You're just seeing how culture, what we reward versus what we don't. Yeah.
I'm so glad you said that, because I'm also an introvert. And I don't know if my heart's racing because I'm nervous or the coffee I just drank. Hello, I'm Ryan. I love hearing everyone's experiences, and, I learned something new, no equals next opportunity, because I was always told, failure is not final, rejection is just redirection, and, I'm a student at Michigan State University, so go green for any Spartans around here. And so my question for you, because one thing I know I'm experiencing is when I am told no, I just feel like I want to shut down, I want to be in a shell. Also with my, introverted tendencies, I'm like, well, I probably shouldn't try again, right? So I kind of just wanted to know, what are your next steps that you take when you are told no? How, I guess, do you rebuild yourself up, your confidence, or just kind of going after it again, especially if you're looking to reapply to a new job or just anything, et cetera?
So for me, I take that next opportunity to heart. In order to have a next opportunity, you have to have a plan. What is your plan? What have you laid out for yourself? So when someone tells you no, for example, ask them, well, why? Find out what they saw, perhaps you didn't see, one of your shortcomings, something you may need to work on, and then go work on it. And once you work on it, go back and try again. I always say, I'll use an example of an interview. You go out for an interview, you don't get the job. How many of you go back and talk to people on that interview panel and ask them questions, take notes, and go and take action on what they say? I tell people, they'll call, why didn't I get the job? Get on my calendar, let's talk about it. And I'll break it down. I don't compare them to other people. I talk about what they can do to do better. I remember the first time I was going after a job, and I didn't get it. Of course I'm upset, because I should have got it. And I know it to this day, and I'm just going to say it. I should have had that job. But I went back, and I asked the person, why didn't I get the job, and you gave it to the person that I just trained? And you're asking me to continue to train them on a job you just gave them. They had no answer. So I had an answer. Thank you. I will see you later. I'm out. I got another job. And that wasn't, it was something I could do because I had the confidence to know that I had the skills to do that job. Now, they may have had the confidence that the other person could do the job, but how could they when they're asking me to train them? And as women, they often do that. They'll put someone in the role, say, you did a great job. Can you help Johnny? Can you give them that skill? We know you can help. What are you to do in that situation? You can do a couple of things. You can stay and help Johnny and grow and show folks you're a team player. Sometimes that's the answer, because you know that somebody might not be in that job long, and they're going to really see who should have gotten the job, and you're going to get it. So that's what that next opportunity looks like. It can be staying where you are, fighting through it, continue to show the skills that you know you have for the opportunity that you went after. You can move on to another opportunity where people will see your brilliance and give you that opportunity. Or you can, think about it for many years. And, you need to throw that out. Those are the only two options. So that's all I have to say.
I think very similarly, I had applied for a role. I did not get the role, and I asked why. There was a reason, and I didn't have experience in something that they were looking for. So my next step was, well, if I really want to try to reapply for that, then I need to gain that critical experience, or look for something else that might be a better match. So I think it's up to you. You own your career, and you have to determine what your path is going to be.
Yes, absolutely.
Just to give one last piece of advice, I'm obviously an extrovert, but I am very passionate about working with introverted colleagues. I was on a panel yesterday about introverts. So I think take your time to be upset, cry, frustrated, whatever. Throw a pillow, eat a pint of ice cream, watch a movie, like whatever you need to do, right? So allow yourself that space to feel that rejection and then throw it out, and then get over it, right? You gotta get to a point where you're like, okay, I had my thing, it sucks, but what's my plan? So part of your plan, asking that why. Part of your plan needs to be, which direction do you want to go to take that feedback? And I know that that's hard for, an introvert to go back and be like, well, why didn't you hire me? That might cause you a little bit of panic or anxiety. So maybe do it in a way that's comfortable for you. You have to tailor it, right? You have a lot of women up here who are confident and assured, and yeah, we're just going to go ask why, because that's in our nature. But it's not something we learned. The first time we probably heard no, it stung, right? And we didn't know what to do, and maybe we didn't ask why. But the next time we heard no, we were like, well, wait a minute. Why? So take your time to get over it however you need to. Just don't drag it out since 2006. Allow yourself that grace to feel that, because I think if that's going to be part of your learning process. Sometimes when you're feeling a lot of those big emotions, that gives you some clues in your brain of where you need to go. So pay attention to that. Pay attention to your intuition and really listen to that, and then formulate a plan.
I think also the way that you ask why, it matters tremendously. It has to be professional. It has to have, executive presence behind it. You can't whine. You can't complain about it. It's very matter of fact. And yes, you can be upset elsewhere, but when you're having that conversation, you need to have it together.
Yes. Wow. Don't cry. Do not cry.
Do not cry.
Do not cry. In any situation, they could be slapping you around. Take it. Run into your office. Go into the bathroom. Do not give them that power in any situation as a woman, because that's the first thing they want to say. Oh, she's not tough. She's crying. We all cry. They cry. But you don't see it. So that gives you a little bit of confidence to not be able to cry in a situation where you are torn. It's a learned skill. Believe me, it's a learned skill. Give yourself that skill.
And I'm going to tell you, you probably are going to cry, right? She's right. Do it at home. Call your network. Tell them what happened. I have a woman that I call. She's always like, I'm so worried about you because you be calling me with 4-letter words coming out your mouth. You okay? But I agree with that. And it's a part of that executive presence that you brought up, which is a good segue for us to talk about how do you build your executive presence and how does that enhance your communication skills, right? So thank you for your question. Unless you have another one, do you want to?
Oh, no, that was it. But
Okay.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to push us into that enhancing communication section, and that was a wonderful segue, because asking why means that you have to have the proper communication, meaning that executive presence is a part of it. There might be something else, but I'll start off, I guess I'll start with Brooke and then we can go down. Can you talk to us about how did you enhance either your executive presence or your communication skills?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question because it could vary in each situation that you're in. I'm part of a large organization, and there's groups that I sit in, and I may tailor my communication or my presence in one way, And then an hour later, I might be in a different meeting or a different situation where I'm tailoring my presence in another way. So I think it is really, for me, there's a couple just keywords that come to mind: calm, intentional, listening, being thoughtful. Those are kind of things that I feel like help my presence in a room, where I'm looking at faces. I'm not seeing anyone scowling, so that's awesome. I'm taking that feedback, and I'm constantly adjusting my communication, my presence in any situation, just kind of reading that room. So kind of focusing on those keywords, really understanding what situation you're going to be in and prepare for that, right? Because it could just be a casual team meeting out for coffee, or it could be you're sitting in front of executives at your organization or another one. You're going to have to understand and read those situations and figure out how you want to show up and what presence you want to bring. Even something as little as posture. You saw me sit up a little bit straighter, right? Posture, your eye contact. Those are all things that have you appear interested, engaged, and that really helps your confidence, your communication, and how your executive presence shows up in a room.
Everything she said. It's funny. So we were in a meeting, and we're going around. It's an icebreaker, and they're like, "So what's your superpower, right? What do you bring to the table?" And I start laughing. I love the nonverbals. I love watching, seeing somebody giving me the side eye, somebody yawning. Okay, everybody's looking. They seem to be engaged, and I was like, "Well, I think my superpower is I can read a room, right?" So, like you can tailor your approach to the audience, right? You have to do your homework and know who is going to be in that room before you get there. It's always good to prep, and we were joking. I was like, I just want to prep for this, and I was like, all right, here's some questions. But I think that's key, right? And then your presence. So posture matters, eye contact matters. A smile goes a long way. If greeting you, hi, how are you today? It makes you feel like I'm talking to you, that I care about how you feel and that you're here. So.
Absolutely. All that is definitely true. But sometimes you have to have that physical presence. I know as women, we sometimes like to shrink ourselves along with not, acknowledging your gifts, your skills. We get in a room with others, our peers, our leadership, and we shrink ourselves. I mean, I can see it. You sit at the table and you just start and sit up. It's absolutely, you want to be seen. You want to be heard. You have something to say. You're in the room for a reason. So, be there. Be in the moment. But one thing I want to also share is actively listen so you can understand what is being portrayed and what you may have to offer in that situation. So you have that physical presence, you have those emotional presence, and you have your listening ears on to identify when it might be appropriate time for you to show what you know, or as I say, share what you know with your team. You have to be able to do that as you, not only at the executive level, but when you're on teams. How many times do you have something to say? I love the commercial where somebody says, blah, 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 not listened to. And, the woman says this awesome thing, and the man comes up and says the exact same thing, goes like this.
The FedEx commercial?
Yeah, and they go, ooh, that was a good idea. But she just said the same thing. Okay, what? That's that presence, being there, showing that being engaged. So definitely you want to have that. And I'm a lifelong learner. So take a course. I took one, executive presence. They have them. Shows you how to stand, how to talk, how to engage. So if you feel like you need that, get a course.
I am going to talk about something about how we have gendered stereotypes when we talk about communication and executive presence.
Yes.
And one of those is that what we kind of talked about, right? Like your emotion it's a very stereotypical, people say women are more emotional than men, and it's not true. I don't know if you guys paid attention to when we were putting Supreme Court justices on and the yelling and the pounding the table. We're absolutely not the emotional creatures in the room. We're not. But it is our stereotype. And I will tell you that sometimes you can actually use that to your advantage, and we don't talk about that enough. Because sometimes you can pound on the table too, right? you just have to be measured about when you do those things, right? Like, so as much as we're saying, like, don't show emotion and don't be angry and be calm, you can also use some of that emotional, because sometimes you need people to listen to you. And again, I can't tell you when to do it. You're going to have a feeling like, okay, they cannot keep talking over me, or they can't keep ignoring me. And it's going to be a good time to be like, I told you, I need everyone's attention. Use those sparingly, okay? Like, but sometimes it works in your measure because it's not your nature, because we always modulate our behavior, that one good pound on the table or that one good raising your voice.
Yes.
Everybody in the room is like, oh, she's serious. And it might get them back to listening, right? So think about that, and it is very gendered. So just make sure you're paying attention to when you use those tools and not. I'm looking around the room, questions about anything we've talked about. So I don't want you to think you can't ask anything, but we're specifically talking about communication skills in executive presence. Yes, the mic is, yeah, I know, it's across the room.
I just asked, what does
We are-
everyone think so far? I think this is, okay.
She said that was her walk-up music.
Okay, so on the subject of communication, many of us, I'm 100% remote now, and so I'm constantly in executive level meetings. And so in the remote world, you have the challenge of trying to interject in meetings that are happening real time, live, and you have the folks online. And so that right timing, it feels like often I'm trying to figure out when to get in a jump rope, right? You're over talking each other. It's difficult. There may be a little delay. So the challenges of communicating effectively and asserting yourself in a meeting that's happening, especially in front of an executive that people find it hard to approach, right? I'm having a challenge figuring out when to get in that rope and then how to transition. You know, I don't want to come off too aggressively when I want to say, hey, I've been trying to get in this conversation for 3 minutes now. How do I get in here in a way that doesn't come off too strong, that does command attention without pounding on the table, and do this frequently to be engaged on a remote call?
You know, I love the hand. That little hand.
Oh, just, yeah, but they have to be paying
Raise
attention.
that hand.
Yeah.
And another thing, you know, before you have your remote meetings, have some ground rules. Have somebody watching the emojis. So when somebody raises their hand, acknowledge, you know. Mary has a question. When you're done talking, Mary is next. So set those rules so that when you're in this meeting, everyone knows them. And that also helps the meeting to flow better. I use my chat. There's someone who monitors the chat. I have someone monitor the hand raising, the emojis, the whatever. But you have to have that outline of what your expectations are in the virtual space. Otherwise, you get a whole bunch of run-on conversations, everybody talking, people just doing things. So set the ground rules and explain them at the beginning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for attending the meeting. Let's just start off with the ground rules for this meeting. We have a lot to get done. So in order for all of us to get what we came here for, let me set these rules. I will have someone monitoring the chat. That's Betty. I have someone who's looking at, you know, this, that, and the other. And then you proceed to your meeting. So you say it right up front, and it helps the flow of the discussion, I think.
If your executives are not doing that, because you're the one that's in the remote environment and they're together, this is a perfect time to manage up.
I was thinking the
Yes.
same. I'm going to
Send them a,
take that in.
hey, I have a couple of suggestions because of the hybrid situation,
Yes.
and then send the list of things. And that they might be like, oh, she's really
Yes.
good and thoughtful. Like,
Yes.
that could be a tip.
Thank
And more
you.
often
Yes.
than not, you're probably not the only person thinking
Yes.
that.
Absolutely.
If you're the one to bring it to the attention, that will speak volumes.
Yeah.
Very true.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm going to take that, manage up in real time.
Yes.
And then
Start today.
ahead if I can. Yes. Today. Thank you, ladies.
Just one more quick tip, I think, is if you can possibly ask for an agenda ahead of time, so maybe you know what the topics are, and then give your feedback. Like, hey, on point number 2, I have some thoughts here. Would it be okay if I can slot me into the agenda? So that way they know already that you have comments on certain things. And if you're maybe with an executive who doesn't live by an agenda, maybe it's a hint for them of like, hey, can we get an agenda? So again, managing up just to kind of understand, you know, what's going to be going on. So that's just another quick tip I had.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Agenda, not presentation.
Yeah, agenda. Yeah, yeah.
Because they'll read and then they'll disrupt you another way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No
That was really impactful. The question I would have is, in the very much segue into what she said right now in the remote work, right? Even in person, how do you use tone and pitch to make an impactful communication in executive meetings?
Yeah, so I think what Whitney said earlier about kind of knowing when to use certain things is good. I mean, sometimes it's okay to use tone and pitch because it shows you're passionate about something, right? So if it's something you're really passionate about, maybe you are going to emphasize it a little bit more so that people understand that you're passionate about it, right? To try to get that attention. So I think it's practiced too. I just faked it right there, but you can definitely practice how that shows up. So pick your battles. If you have something that's really important that you're passionate about, I'm a hand talker too sometimes. So when I get really passionate about things, I tend to emphasize things, and I think that communicates to your audience, remote or not, that you're here, you're present, you're engaged, you're passionate about a topic. And when I see somebody communicating in that way, I sit up and say, oh, okay, this is something they really care about. So let's focus, let's pay attention, let's actively listen. But yeah, there's going to be other times where you just need to be calm, and maybe it's not something that you're super passionate about. So really focus on where you want to use that intentionally. Because if somebody's always just screaming or frantic in a room, you're not going to listen to them, right? So.
And then you get a reputation, right? Like you're the screamer. Like, yeah, you don't want that, right? Like, oh, we got to be careful because Whitney's going to be screaming, right? Like, you don't want that to be the thing.
And sometimes you get uninvited.
Yeah.
That's a key that they didn't like what you did. You're uninvited. And then all your colleagues are talking about a meeting, and you're like, I didn't get an invite.
All right, thank you.
Hi, my name is Aleida. I'm also from Michigan State University. So just a little bit of background. I'm here with my e-board. We actually have a new student organization. It's Women of Color in STEM.
Nice.
And what we I guess our goal is really to provide with our general body members these valuable lessons and these valuable goals for, developing our careers. Oftentimes, we like to say that we have so many resources available to us, but we don't necessarily know how to find them. So that's just one of our goals that we have. But a question that I have for you guys is what topics should be talked about more to become a better leader that we haven't talked about already?
I think the first thing that comes to mind is supporting each other. I think leadership needs to be not so individualistic and more by committee. Let's lift each other up. Let's support each other. I feel like it's, if you're going to be a leader or trying to be in leadership, you feel alone and isolated, like it's just your journey. So are there other people that you can support? Who's supporting you? I kind of hinted around some of the negative words that get talked about women in leadership, bossy or aggressive or whatever. Well, you don't say that about Bill, so don't say that about your coworker, right? Help lift people up and support them and really make it not so individualized. Like, let's make leadership, especially women in leadership and in STEM, a group effort. Let's support each other and let's help each other out, even if it's just bouncing ideas off of somebody, even if it's like, hey, I read this book or this article or I saw this TED Talk. Let's help each other out. Let's make it a group effort to really promote women in leadership and in STEM careers specifically.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Just a couple things there, I mentor young girls, and, what I try to tell them is a couple things. Know yourself. You bring yourself into the space, so know yourself. Dream big. We talk about innovation. You have to be dreaming all the time. In everything you do, even your daily tasks, think about ways you can innovate and create a space and speak to that, because you know yourself you're going to be in a space where that happens. Know how to overcome obstacles and objections. You know, we don't like to think about it, but when it happens, then we start thinking about it. So if you prepare yourself, you're ready for it when it does happen. It's kind of like the no thing. You're putting your plan together. And lastly, or take that action, be able to take action. I think we talked about that today. And be a lifelong learner. Because you might have heard it this morning at the breakfast. Things are changing rapidly. What you knew last year is something different today. So don't take yourself out of the game by stopping your learning. Create a space each and every day where you take time for yourself to learn something new, to read a book, to take time for yourself, to build yourself as a whole person. All of those things will create the leadership in you that you want to be. And other people will see that. Lead by example.
Thank you.
I think also understanding your value, right? So as you're fostering all of your relationships, you know, supporting one another, understanding what you bring to the table, what's in your portfolio that's going to differentiate you amongst everyone else. But that skill can help someone else, right? So kind of paying it forward, bringing others along. It's you know, the same theme across the board.
Yeah, and I would tell you things that are probably not talked about enough that I hope that we can create space at some point to talk about them. And I wrote a little list, is leading with empathy. A lot of the times we're achievement driven, and I think part of your leadership journey needs to be about how do you lead with empathy in all things. I tell my team I'm leading you with love. I get it. Life is challenging, and that old school mentality that you can compartmentalize work is work and personal is not real. Because if you didn't sleep last night because whatever caregiving was happening or you weren't feeling well, that's coming to work, whether we like it or not, right? Like, so leading with empathy, and we don't talk about how to do that well and still get results, right? So people say it, but how do you still do that and get results? I would tell you if you could talk about that with young leaders, you should. How to be an upstander is a topic that we don't talk about enough. So Brooke's talking about it, like, you gotta support one another. You have to support one another. And the part that I feel like is missing is like, you're not in competition with each other. You gotta drop the competition. Yeah, and I don't know if we talk about it because we are trained as young girls in particular to compete against other women, right? And that is real, heavily studied, right? So I'm not making this up. So really figuring out how do you get out of that, unlearning some of those behaviors. So I'm no longer competing, I'm your colleague, and we're gonna get to where we need to go. The reason why I added upstander is sometimes bad things are gonna happen in a meeting. Don't just sit there. I'm gonna just tell my personal gripe. Don't come up to me after the meeting like, that was bad how so-and-so did that to you. Like, the time to say that was when it happened.
Yeah.
Like, don't come up to me afterwards, my heart's broken and I'm crying, like I want to cry. Yeah, oh, that was so bad. No, be an upstander. Say, hey, that was really inappropriate.
Yeah.
That should not happen, right? Like, be upstanders for each other because you're going to want someone to do it for you, so model that behavior, right? Because it's going to happen. And sometimes it's unintentional, but it's going to happen. And the other thing is, this is something that I think about a lot. People talk about what motherhood does to those who are working in spaces. We talk about it, right? But I don't know if we talk about what structures need to change to be better supports for women in their lives, in their workplace. Because me having a baby, a whole child, right, should not be punished, right? Like, all of that and the realities of what that looks like in the workforce. So we tend to tell women what to do to fit in and navigate. No, we need to talk about what the company needs to do to stop these behaviors so I don't have to shrink or change or get off course or exit, right? So those are things that I would say we need to talk about a little bit more, so that way we can have a real strong leadership, especially a woman's presence, a strong presence.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Other questions? Yes, come on up to the microphone. Both of you, you guys can come on up. Yeah.
not a question, and if I may, I wanted to share some, things that I've learned. I've been in my career for more than 30 years, don't tell anybody. But when I was, some of you were talking, and I mentor some younger women. So there are some points that I wanted to share. But again, I think what you are all sharing, it's amazing, but a bit on top of that, right? So one thing I see, not for everybody, but for some of us, wanting that emotional approval from your boss, from your colleagues, from everybody, many times stays in the way of really having a seat at the table. That's, I see, for me, it's a conundrum. I think, depending on the person, it may require therapy or other ways, but I think that's something very important to acknowledge when we are beginning our careers and all along. It's my phone. I had to ring right now, but anyways, right, my personal phone. So that for me is something that I always thought about. Okay, I want this, and Sheryl Sandberg in her book, Lean In, she mentioned that, Mark Zuckerberg mentioned to her when he hired her at Facebook, he said, I don't know if it's true, but it's in the book, you want people to like you. This will not allow you to do your job. That's tough, right? And for me, it still is a problem. I have to deal with that. Second is just as, one of those items in the toolkit. For those of you who are starting your careers and you're client-facing, create that really rapport with your clients. Business, executive rapport, I'm in sales now, I don't know how, because I'm super introverted, I've always been in delivery, that's my word, I studied physics at college and so on, but I really make a point of being relevant to my client. I am a very active listener, so I hear their words, and that gives some power that when someone mentioned you, when you are at the meeting, the girl from Citrix, there, yeah. Even if you are remote at the meeting and then you start saying something, they need to listen to you because they know client, has a part with you. That's one thing. And then another thing, again, in the client item, 2 weeks ago was a very important meeting. And again, I'm in technology. I work in a very, male-oriented environment, and my colleagues are usually men. And it's all very technical. But the client was in the room and was very high-level executive. And they were all throwing technical stuff. And then I mentioned something which was not technical, about something I heard them saying, very kind of personal. And the guy said, you were listening. And then my colleague the next day said, Cynthia, I changed my behavior because I saw that he found important that you were listening, and we were not. We were so ready to just throw stuff at them. So just some things. And then lastly, on the crying part, I cry a lot. I've always cried a lot, but as you've mentioned, you always try to get into the bedroom to cry, not always was fast enough. So my first boss, he was terrible. He taught me lots of things. I'm glad I had a very tough boss at the beginning of my career, otherwise, it would have been different. But then there was a moment when I found a better opportunity, and I told him, I'm leaving. And he said, and I'm Brazilian, I was transferred from Brazil to the US, so this was in Brazil. I don't know if there's a cultural difference, but anyways. He said, what am I going to do? Because I know when you are about to start crying, I know that I've done too much and I need, to. And I almost said, I won't say. But anyway, I just want to share these things. I hope it's helpful. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dipshika, and I'm working for Ford. My question is more so, I think I brought it up with Elena yesterday as well, in terms of your communication within your organization, if you want to change from what role you're in to another team, but you don't have the skill set for it as of yet. So how do you do that communication more effectively rather than feeling that you shouldn't even approach because you don't have anything that will match with that team? So.
We had a great conversation last night. Thank you for the question. I think that you always bring something to the table, right? And then I think in conjunction with that, it's your network. A lot of the opportunities that I've had were because I had expanded my network and I had shown that I could deliver results and willing to take on challenges. I don't mind ambiguity, and that's, for a lot of people, that's very uncomfortable. I don't, it's just something you go with the flow. You figure things out, you connect the dots. You're willing to take the initiative and be proactive. And I think that if you demonstrate those skills, that people are willing to take the chance on you.
Just to add to, I think if you feel like you don't have a skill that you need in order to get there, I think you've heard it a million times here. We'll never stop growing, never stop learning. You know, and broadcast that. Hey, I don't have skill XYZ, but I enrolled myself in a course and I really am passionate. I want to learn about this. And then tell the other team that that's what you're doing, right? Because, oh, well, she is serious about, you know, coming over here and learning and being on this team. And, it, you know, I'm guarantee you're a valued member of your organization and they'll give you that chance. But it starts with you. It starts with your self-discipline. It starts with you improving yourself and you growing. No one's going to do that for you. But then broadcast it.
You'll find people that want to help you along the way.
Yes.
So if you need to find a critical experience to fill a gap, you reach out to people who might have something that can expose you to that skill set.
Goes back to your mentors. They can be an advocate for you and getting you into those spaces. And if you don't have a mentor in that space, find one, number one. Most organizations have what's called rotational opportunities, assignments that they're looking for someone to do, but it's not advertised. That's where that raise your hand comes in. Say, hey, I'm looking for this opportunity. Do you have anything? Share that with your mentor and others in the organization and let them know. Because there are a lot of things that go on that your executives know or even other colleagues that they're not looking for someone full-time. They want somebody in the space to do it. And that's an opportunity for you to do it.
Another way that you can view it is if there are opportunities like volunteering,
Yes.
right, with an organization and you want to learn more about marketing skills and you're not going to have that in your organization, that's a great way to go about it. And you're also expanding your network.
Yes.
right?
Okay, all. Thank you for your question, but that is the end of our workshop today. I know we could probably talk to you all day about some of these topics, but I do encourage you to continue to have those conversations in the hallway with the women here on the panel. Can we just give them a round of applause for being an amazing panel? And just a gentle reminder to please fill out the survey in the app if you have not done so already. And we thank you for your attendance today, and I hope you learned something. Thank you all.
In the brilliance we find our way, embracing the future, come what may. Intelligence and eloquence say why for the innovations and what they try. Outstanding tech contributions today for strength and creativity. Find a way. In the face of challenges, they soared. Their impact and legacy adored. Profound impact, all that they share. The boundless reach, a world they repair. With tech inventions, they rise above, pushing the boundaries with a future love. Exceptional products, systems that work, intellectual marvels that are artwork. In the face of challenges, they soared. Their impact and legacy adored. Profound impact, all that they share. The boundless reach, a world they repair. With every breakthrough, they show the way. In virtual reality or light of day. Testament to innovation for all to be human show on blank canvases to see. In the face of challenges, they soared. Their impact and legacy adored. Profound impact, all that they share. The boundless reach, a world they repair.
Two sides of a coin, they beautifully blend. Professional achievements, not following trends. Narratives of success, they beautifully bind. To discover a new way in their hearts and minds. Hearts and minds. Distinct yet connected, as sisters they stand. Professional achievements, a lifetime's plan. Projects, initiatives, talents of faith, of triumphs and milestones. This is their fate. Enduring excellence, a journey wide, a professional's path with each stride. Many contributions shaping the field, the impact of accomplishments revealed. Distinct yet connected, as sisters they stand. Professional achievements, a lifetime's plan. Projects, initiatives, talents of faith, of triumphs and milestones. This is their fate. Early in their life, the work has begun. Rising to the occasion, each mile